Will Donald Trump allow us one weekend off? That's all I ask. It's just one weekend to watch cartoons with my kid. But no, we have the war and it is back on. We're going to be breaking this down. Amazing how 6 hours after the DOJ was ordered to release the unredacted Epstein files, we are back to full-on airstrikes in Iran. Now, this war, I mean, the coin flip of this war might have been the Epstein files. Donald Trump, of course, led into this war by Israel. Was it through blackmail or was it through his failing poll numbers? And he knew maybe a war would spruce things up. It's backfired, absolutely backfired. But now this ceasefire is absolutely gone. It's done. I'm going to share what J.D. Vance has to say. I'm going to share what the Iranians have to say. They claim they've attacked the United States. We wouldn't know. They've basically disabled satellite images. We have no idea the extent of the damage going on. But I want to share for you what DropSite News is reporting here. They've been super credible. They've got sources on the ground. Breaking: IRGC says its Navy has struck U.S. military positions in the region after accusing Washington of violating the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding by carrying out airstrikes on Iran's coast. Now, this might be BS, but how are we supposed to know? Hundreds of U.S. soldiers have been injured, and what claims were that they were minor injuries. Now we're finding out big shrapnel injuries, of course, over a dozen deaths. So anything that happens moving forward is the blood on Trump's hands. We didn't need to be in this war. Everyone from Tulsi Gabbard and every other security personnel, including Joe Kent, who resigned, all said the same thing. Iran was not a threat. They weren't developing a nuclear weapon. And of course, any escalation by them was because Donald Trump ripped up the agreement that Obama had made several years prior. The statement notes that the U.S. attack followed the Iranian response to the passage of a ship through what it called an unauthorized route in the Strait of Hormuz and of Israel's violation of the Lebanon ceasefire. I'm going to share with you how J.D. Vance is explaining the U.S.'s attack. That's what they do. This government, they look for loopholes. Everything Donald Trump does is a loophole. He reads laws and he sees, how can I exploit this? He exploits laws. He exploits women. In an upcoming video today, we've got a story where apparently he's having an unhealthy relationship with a 34-year-old aide. Blech. Again, we'll get into that one. Ew, grandpa, no. The IRGC said, talk about grandpa issues. The IRGC said Clause 5 of the memorandum gives Iran responsibility for controlling passage through the strait and charged the U.S. of attempting to undermine those arrangements by encouraging violations. Those violations being, as narrow as the strait is, there's still, it's still a large body of water. So the accusation is that ships were traveling closer to Oman when they were supposed to go through a direct route where Iran could control it. So they said the U.S. is helping ships violate this. They, sent, these suicide drones at these ships, and then the U.S. responded with an attack. IRGC warned that any further U.S. aggression would be met with a broader response. All right, well, what the hell does that mean? So, yeah, they say they've struck multiple high-value U.S. Army positions in the region in response to the U.S. airstrikes. The IRGC adds, okay, so then it's the same news we just heard. And then here we have the U.S. Pentagon delayed publicly announcing U.S. strikes on Iran until after the U.S. stock market had closed at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Friday, per NBC News. Look, we know that they do this, but what's very interesting with this, if you're Iran looking at the U.S. game plan, the U.S. cares about one thing and one thing only, the stock market. And with that comes inflation, and with that comes oil. That's all bundled together. If the U.S. can continue to keep oil prices at bay, they're going to keep this war going. That's just Trump only cares about the economy. Now, if you're Iran, the way to combat that is to not give the U.S. the things that's going to make the economy work, right? And again, if we just take our sort of bias out of this, and if you're Iran, a country that's been around, in part, the Persians have been around for thousands and thousands of years, they're going to want to ride this thing out. So it might be that the ceasefire, they could have allowed the ships to go through in the strait the way that they did, but it might be that Iran wants to escalate and say, no, got to stay strict to this rule because they actually want to drag this out past the midterms to the point where they can get maybe a reasonable president or a reasonable, group of politicians in place that they can negotiate with. Maybe they feel like, look, we just can't negotiate with this president. The reports have come in that they've considered him a psychopath. They consider him mentally ill. And how do you negotiate with someone like that who, doesn't care about anything but his own, pocketbook? So again, that's my belief that this thing's not going to end anytime soon and the rest of it's all theater. So Trump waits till the stock market closes on Friday, bombs the hell out of them, tries to recover by Monday, rinse and repeat. JD Vance said Iran signed a ceasefire agreement. We have honored it. If they have disagreements about how the MOU is being applied, they can pick up the phone, but violence will be met with violence. Now, this is not exactly true. So to say we honored the ceasefire, that's like saying, it's like being out at a bar and my friend punches somebody and then that person ends up punching me back. And I say, well, I honored no fighting. It's like, yeah, but you didn't rein your boy in. And Israel is our boy as far as these talks are concerned, and we're not reining our boy in. Israel kills 3 in Lebanon as Rubio praises progress in a Washington talks. Now, although Israel has continued to bomb Lebanon, they just signed a peace deal that is leaving Lebanon divided, which we'll dive into. So America attacked Iran in the midst of negotiations. This is from the Iranian side. The failed U.S. president has once again proven that he has no commitment to the principles of negotiation and ceasefire. This reckless violation of the ceasefire by America will, as always, lead to their retreat and regret. Well, I mean, some people are saying, Iran, quit doing what you're doing. You're just getting your ass kicked. And then other people are saying, well, it seems as though they have all the cards because what has the U.S. gotten out of this, right? We've had to change the goalpost about what we want this entire time. Now all we want is the Strait of Hormuz to open back up. It's like when you are in a relationship. I love to relate things back to relationships because that's all this is, right? Is relationships with other countries. It's like you're in a relationship and you demand something out of your partner, and your partner's like, "Why don't we just end this thing? Why don't we just call it off?" And then you're like, "No." And then you abandon all of the demands you made, and now you just want to go back to being able to get laid, right? You're like, "Please, let's just continue. I'll buy you flowers." And it's like, oh boy, that's not how negotiating works. Like, we've showed our hand that we don't have the chips. We don't have all of the casino terms. We've showed our hand. We don't have the chips. They're all in, whatever. After the U.S. struck Iran, after Iran struck a ship in the Strait, Iranian media reports IRGC struck U.S. positions. As bad as this is, an even greater threat to the MOU is the Israel-Lebanon agreement signed by the Lebanese government, which has caused riots in Beirut amid accusations that the Lebanese government has sold out the country and acquiesced to Israel occupying parts of southern Lebanon. Netanyahu must be mighty happy. Now, this is interesting because we kind of saw something similar. I know every situation is so unique and different, but we saw something similar in Venezuela where we stole their president and then the new Venezuelan government seems to be working with the U.S. in one capacity or another. The U.S. is stealing their oil and all of that stuff. Will the people see this as a good thing or a bad thing? Obviously, in Lebanon, they don't want to give an inch to Israel. Israel has proven if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. Give a mouse a cookie. And so that's where they are. Hezbollah rejects the U.S. brokered Israel-Lebanon security deal as surrender. It's complicated. This is why I don't go into these wars. Look, I'm a nobody. I don't know anything. But what I can tell you is when you read these articles, you go, well, there's Hezbollah, which is operating within Lebanon. So in Lebanon, the government might want to do a deal. Hezbollah might not. So then there's all of this infighting. Israel's going to exploit those fissures and those cracks. Meanwhile, when that's happening, Iran's saying, well, there's no peace over there. How's there going to be peace in the Middle East? And then all of a sudden, it's like, do you understand what you did, Trump? Now, I'm not saying this whole situation wasn't boiling up beforehand, but certainly not to the nuclear level. This whole, all of the fighting that was going on in the Middle East, all of the different threats and the terrorists and all of that, right? The strait was open before, and it's now closed. So Iran is reportedly weighing the suspension of all remaining technical negotiations with the U.S. after the recent U.S. strikes in Iran. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. The report says Iranian negotiators view the strikes as a breach of Article 1 of the MOU and are discussing whether to cancel the June 28th, 29th Switzerland talks and halt the remainder of the 60-day negotiation process. So that's where they're at. And by the way, what's going on in the United States here? The State Fair. That's right, folks. Check this out. The Great American Fair. Look at this. It is empty. Great American State Fair popping off for opening day. There's some ribbon twirlers. And then, by the way, if you're an introvert, this is perfect, right? There's a couple like MAGA guys on those little electric Walmart scooters zipping around. There's a Confederate flag out there in the North Carolina State Fair, which, by the way, look, I live in Tennessee. You come to the State Fair in Tennessee, they have a Confederate station set up I'm sorry. This is like, I'm from New England. I'm from the North, whatever. I didn't really know much about what the hell's going on in the South, but it's alive. I don't want to say it's alive and well, but it is alive down here. So there's your updates. That's where we're at. The war is back on. And I hope everyone can enjoy their weekend regardless. But I guess these are weekend wars. It's like when you break up with your lady and you get to see the kids on weekends. So I guess it'd be nice if we could only ship our soldiers over there on Friday afternoons and then they get to come back on Monday. We'll just fight this war on the weekend, I guess. And that's the issue, right? If you're Iran, they're going to fight this war to the death. Are we committed to fight to the death? Or are we just going to tinker some bombs on the weekends? Now, I'm not saying we should put boots on the ground because that would be Vietnam 2.0. That'd be an absolute, or Iraq, that'd be an absolute disaster. But how is it working out in the meantime? Meanwhile, we're just sitting here slowly fighting them, slowly dragging it on. And this isn't going to help Trump's midterm. He knows that. He doesn't care. What do you guys think? The insider trading that's going on. I mean, only Trump could try to fuck with the economy while he's in war. I mean, the guy can multitask. I'll say that. All right, we got updates on Trump's cheating scandal. We got Epstein updates. We got I got a new update on the reflecting pool. They're installing speakers telling people to leave it alone. Boy, are we winning yet? We'll be back with more right after this.